Hi, I'm Ria.
And I'm Renee.
And we're here to just talk to you today about some things that are just kind of on our hearts, right?
There's some things that are on our hearts and our minds.
And if you never tuned into Raw, just like what is Raw, if you're wondering what that is, God put that on our hearts regarding basically where we are in our lives right now, just kind of being surrendered to God at this point of our lives. So RAW stands for reckless abandoned, and then the W is women. So we are recklessly abandoned to God, which means we're passionate,
we're bold,
and we are really trying to deny ourselves, okay, which is really tough to do. So as we came together today, we were thinking about, we always do this, we always like kind of think about, what are we going to talk about?
Exactly. Think, what are we going to talk about? And most of my, I don't want to say brainstorming, well, kind of like brainstorming, because it's not really me. It's kind of like, I feel like the Lord shows me things when I'm on my way over here. But when I got here, Ria was having a hard time setting up our little mini tripod, so that'll lead us into...
I was, and I said, you know what? I said, you know, I don't always remember how to do this thing. I said, but if you're trying to force something, you're trying to force something to go in a place where it's not supposed to fit or whatever, then there's your clue right there to stop forcing it and try to maneuver things around so that, you know, it's going to be the right way, and that way you know it's the way it was made and that's the way it's supposed to be put in. What I'm talking about in this case is our iPhone, is the phone, how we're recording, putting it in this tripod that we're using, and the little thingy that holds it, whatever it's called, right?
We're just two chicks trying to do technical work, and it just doesn't.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm like, Renee, I don't remember how to. Oh wait, let me turn this around, and there you go. So, and I said to her, you know what? If you're forcing it, then obviously that's not the way it goes. And then I thought, wow.
That's where all of a sudden I was like,
let's
like
talk about
relationships.
that.
I said, has there ever been a relationship you've been in?
You did say that.
Whether it be with friends or maybe somebody you had been dating, and you feel like you have to force it, or the other person's forcing it, and you're just not feeling it. Or it's just not connecting. There's not a connection. There's not a chemistry. And of course, the Lord is the one that glues us together anyway.
Yeah.
But if there's something that's not there connecting you, why are you forcing it? If it has to be forced, then it's not meant to be.
Yeah.
And then that's what led us into...
Yeah, and then I thought about, wow, I was like, let me just think back as I'm thinking about the word forced. I was thinking, people tried to force me to know who Jesus is at one time in my life. And when I think about that, I was on my job, and I just remember very vaguely, because I don't know what's up with the memory lately, but very vaguely, I'd have to eat more blueberries is what my husband says.
And walnuts.
For antioxidants.
I heard walnuts make you smart.
But anyway, very vaguely, I remember some people saying some things, you know, about Jesus and stuff. And I was, let's say, just so spiritually blind that I didn't understand what they were saying. I would look at scripture and it would be foreign to me. And I guess I almost felt like I was being forced. And when you feel like you're being forced in an aspect that has to do with spirituality, it's not going to work. And I believe the reason it's not going to work is because that's the Lord's design. He did not do what he did to force us to love him, to force us to know him, to force us to live for him. It has to come when you know, the seeds get planted, the seeds get watered from somebody who is gentle. There's this part in scripture that talks about, you know what, always give somebody the hope, okay, of why you believe what you believe, but do it with gentleness. And love. Something like that, in so many words. You know, it's somewhere in Peter, I think. But the bottom line with that is we're never ever to force anybody to do anything. You know, and then when you think about it spiritually, that's really deep.
Yeah. And you know, as you said, not being forced, and it took many people Now, how did you say it? You said it took somebody to
plant the seeds.
Plant the seed.
Right.
And,
to sow them. They sowed seeds into my life.
I just want to thank the people out there.
Me too.
Yeah, I just want to thank the people, the few people out there that prayed for me, who had the patience.
That's right.
Who had the patience to sit with me.
And now we're in that predicament.
Yes.
For our kids, for people we know, for even strangers, because that burden that we're given, for people, because now we know the truth, if you would, right?
So yeah, exactly. So now it just trickles down to where we can share with you or share with other people, in hopes that the others will want to grow and want to develop their own relationship, unforced relationship.
Yes.
With the Lord.
So don't we have to remember, like, when we want to see people that we know and they're not walking with the Lord the way we are, can't we easily get offended over that, Renee? Like, we can start to feel like, like, wow, how are you not seeing what I'm seeing here?
It's funny you say that.
And then maybe people felt that way about us when we were in the position where we didn't see it. We weren't ready. We weren't ready. And I can't even explain that away, that we weren't ready at that time.
And you know what? We see that all the time. We see
had to go
people
through our own stuff. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. It's like we see people all the time that maybe they're making some bad choices, they're doing things they shouldn't be doing or whatever. And I think it's our job to just be there.
Love on them.
And just love on them. Stop the judgment, because you know what the word does say, examine ourselves first. Yeah. And sometimes that's what it makes me think of when I see somebody who might not be where they need to be. One, just love on them, and two, and turn around and just take a look at yourself and say, Lord, refine me.
Yes.
Refine me first. What is it? Taking the plank. There's scripture about taking, before you pull the speck out of your brother's eye.
Take the telephone pole.
Oh, yeah,
or
like
plank
the telephone pole.
Out of your own.
Yeah,
that's
the
judging
telephone
reference.
pole actually fits perfect because I hit one a few years back. But go ahead. Like I didn't need a pole. I literally had to pull a pole out of my car.
So I'm getting chills all over me right now just talking about this subject, because right away I feel like the Spirit of God is hitting me because of the fact that what we do when we force people, and we don't even realize we're forcing sometimes. We have to be careful. When we do that, we're getting in God's way of His plan and His purpose of how He's going to work in someone else's life to bring them to see the things that He wants them to see. They may have to go through some stuff. I had to go through some stuff in order to wake up spiritually. And we'll be talking about that through our time in these videos of some of the stuff that the Lord had to allow in my life. And it caused a lot of pain. A lot of pain.
And that's where the growth takes place.
Yeah, that's right. The struggle, right? We talked about the caterpillar and the struggle.
The struggle they had to go through to form into...
To come to what?
The butterfly.
The freedom.
Yeah, the freedom of the butterfly, exactly. I was about ready to say something, I can't remember, but this is so exciting.
Right,
yeah.
This Talk about being forced,
all of a sudden, this is what I was thinking about. Well, how do we approach people? How do we know how to be gentle? How do we know how to try to reach somebody on their level? And the only way I have the answer to that is to get into the gospel, to get into your word and start reading the stories of how Jesus approached people.
Right.
He didn't go to the rich. He didn't go to the rich people, the rich houses. He didn't go to the to the finest of the finest. He went and sat down with the sinner. He sat with the tax collectors. He sat with
the woman at the well.
The woman at the well. Oh, do I love the story
of
the woman at the well.
Story,
so he sat with average people like me and you, and reached us on a level where there was no status, there was no money, it wasn't about that. It was about touching their hearts and saving their hearts and their lives and their souls.
And when I think about the woman at the well, again, I get the chills because I think about how that woman was me. Jesus would have sat down with me and asked me for a drink, and I would have been like, I don't know you, or something like that, because I didn't know him. And he would have said, well, I'm thirsty and I need a drink. And, if you knew who I was, you'd be like, wow, you'd be wanting the living water, he says, that I have to offer you. And I would have said, well, let me go get my husband. And he would have said, well, you don't have one.
You have.
And because I was living with my ex-husband after I had divorced him, so he would have been right on track with that. So that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But I felt like that woman at the well. I was definitely her. I was her. I was thirsty, and I didn't know I was thirsty. You know, and even though people tried to kind of force it along for me along the way, it had to be when it was time, when I had to come to the end of myself, I guess you would say, of when it was time, when God had that perfect time.
I could talk about timing
for me to come.
That's my favorite
and
subject.
My eyes be opened,
That's my favorite subject now, is I'm learning about God's timing. It's perfect. It may not be
absolutely it's perfect.
I want to say it's may not. It's never in our timing. God's timing is never in our timing, but we have to trust. That's where he tells us, okay, just trust.
Yeah.
Just rest in me, because when my time comes for whatever it is that you're waiting for, it's going to be perfect.
Amen.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think we should just end it right here,
yeah.
and just, the whole idea was, don't force it. If you're trying to reach a friend of yours, or you're in a process that you need to be reached,
That's right.
we're not here to force you. And we just ask you to be patient and loving with your friends and family.
We're here to encourage you.
Yeah.
That's what this is about. This is so that hopefully somehow, some way you can relate to what we're talking about on either spectrum, you know? So we thank you for joining us. If you liked it, please give us a thumbs up, and also give us your comments, your feedback, and subscribe if you haven't already.
Yes, please.
All right.
All right.
We'll
Thank
see you later.
Bye-bye.